So this video will show you how to remove rust from a bicycle. So I'm now on part 2 of my folding bike restoration project, and I'm going to start things off by working on removing some of this rust. It's formed all over all the components of the bike. I've got a few tricks for doing that I'm going to show. But first I'm going to talk about how rust works. So this material here is steel, which has been coated in chromium. So it's chrome plated steel, and basically what happens is if this is sitting out in wet conditions, or just if it's old, the steel underneath the chrome reacts with the oxygen in the air and it causes oxidization. So the brown stuff you see is iron oxide. So it's the iron reacting with the oxygen, forming an oxide, and that's what rust is. Most of the shiny parts on a typical bike are made of chrome plated steel. Like I said, this rack was. The seat post here is. This bolt here for the quick release and its handle are both made of chrome plated steel. This arm for the fender is also chrome plated steel. So is this crank arm and the front sprocket. Although there are some parts on this bike which aren't chrome plated steel, which are also shiny, such as this brake arm here and this rim as well, which are both made out of aluminum. But you can tell aluminum is a little bit different. It's kind of a different shade. It's not as shiny. It's a little bit kind of grayer in color. Doesn't reflect the light as much as a piece of chrome does. And generally you won't see any orange rust forming on aluminum. If there's rust on it, it's probably just contaminated from something else. So I'm going to start here with the bolt for the quick release for the seat. As you can see right there, there's some orange rust that's formed on this piece of chrome plated steel, and I'm going to use a trick that I found online, which I think works pretty well, and it's really easy. Pretty much anyone has the tools available to do it. All you need is a piece of aluminum foil, and you dip it in water and make sure it's a little bit wet, just helps it slip a little bit nicer, and then you just rub it back and forth on the surface. And that's taking off all of that orange color that we see, or we saw a second ago. So it's much cleaner now than it was a second ago. I'm just going to flip it over and show the same thing again. So here's the other side of it. I'm just zooming in. You can see how orange and rusty it is. So I'll just do the same thing again. The reason that this works so well is because every material has a hardness, and that's tested by, if you scratch two things together, which one gets the scratch on it. And the reason this works is because aluminum has a lower hardness than chrome. So when you scratch the aluminum on the chrome, it's not going to make an indentation on the chrome. But the aluminum has a higher hardness than the iron oxide, which is the orange stuff, the rust, which is what's formed on here. So the aluminum can go on here and wipe off the rust without causing any damage to the surface of the chrome. Get a bit down here too. You can do the same trick if you just have a piece of aluminum, like a bar or a cutoff from something else. It works the same for doing big pieces, but the foil is better for getting in the small little tight corners. I think having the water on the aluminum is also helpful because it kind of washes away the dust. Instead of, if you just rub this on here normally, it would make a kind of a cloud of dust, and it would get all over everything, and you wouldn't really be able to see if you had done anything. Now we've got that thing looking pretty much as good as new, using probably about 5 cents worth of aluminum foil, if that. So now I'm going to move on to something harder like this kickstand, which I've already started a little bit on, and just use the aluminum foil on it. Get it wet and rub it around, and it's definitely taking away that rust off of it. It's not quite as shiny as I'm sure it was originally, or as shiny as the other parts I've worked on so far, but still a definite improvement. Well, when I do this whole kickstand, I'll probably take it off the bike to get it done, because the other side of it's probably just as bad. But the reason that it's not coming out quite as nicely as the other parts we were working on is because the oxide got so bad on the outside that the chrome itself started to peel away a bit. So the chrome is no longer fixed to the outside of the steel, so it's no longer there when I rub the oxide off. So the end result you've got here is you've got a surface which is kind of speckled, and the reason it's speckled is because all those little speckles are from where the chrome is flaked off, and that's where you can see through to the bare steel. So of course it's going to be orange colored where you can see the bare steel, because there's nothing outside protecting it, so it's oxidizing with the air. So to get rid of this speckling, you can always use a piece of steel wool. But the thing is, if you use steel on here, steel is harder than chrome. So rubbing the steel wool on there, you're actually going to be getting rid of more of your chrome. So it's going to be even less protected after you do that. So I really wouldn't recommend using steel wool though, unless you were planning on getting it re-chromed or painting it or something afterwards. So the process of removing rust that I just showed is fairly time consuming, but as you can see it does a really good job. You can make things look almost as good as new. Well, this concludes my tutorial on removing rust from a bicycle. Thanks for watching.